Hello everyone, I hope you are fine. So today I will explain something related to the NS3. So is about the configuration and attributes. So configuration and attributes. So in NS3 simulations, there are two main aspects to configuration: the simulation topology and how objects are connected, and the value used by the models instantiated in the topology. So, but in this lecture, I will focus on this one. So how to give values to your attributes and to initialize them. So here one of the most important methods that give you the information about your object, or this method generally affects all instances of the class named getTypeID, and this method you will find it in all classes that derive the basic class object. So here I will explain this method. It's a static method, so all the instance of a class share the information initialized by this method. So, and initialization by this method contain a unique string identifying the class and the base class of the subclass. Subclass, as I said, that the class defined in this method derive from the class object. And the third information is the set of accessible constructors in the subclass, and finally a list of publicly accessible properties or attributes of the class. So here we have an example to make the idea clear. We have the very famous class in NS3, class node, and these 2 points or this sign means that this class derives from the class objects, and so that it can get the public, just the public. Focus and concentrate with me, just the public methods and attributes, because the private attributes and methods are just accessible from the class itself. So here the definition of the getTypeID, and it returns a type ID. This type ID, it's a class. So here the example type ID, it's the return type of the method getTypeID, and the getTypeID here the symbol is called the scope operator, and this definition or this instruction means that we will write the code of the method getTypeID that belongs to the class node and return type ID as a return type and doesn't take any attribute or any argument in input arguments. So static type, here we will define the variable, the object, cause type ID it's a class, the object of type ID, and here this begins the process of initialization to initialize the these information. So here type ID NS, we will give it a string argument NS3 node. This refers to a unique string identifying the class, and after that set parent object. This refers to this second initialization, the base class of the subclass within the metadata system. According to this, we understand that this class or object of this class, their parent is the class object. After that, the set of accessible constructors in the subclass, the constructor of the subclass node that derive from the class object. So we have just one constructor node. Of course, has the same name as its class, and a list of publicly accessible properties, attributes of the class. Here we have add attribute. Attribute 1 is name device list. The attribute 2 application list. The attribute 3 is ID. And here for each attribute we have a definition of this attribute to clarify the usage of this attribute. So the first attribute is the list of devices associated to this node, and after that we have this method. I'm not sure, but as I understand, I'm not sure, so you can search or googling more on this. These are the methods that can access or that can on which we can use this attribute. So object vector value and make object vector accessor. As I understand that these methods cited here just use this attribute in their code. The last node is about this, the last method in each attribute. It's also referred to method that check the values of this attribute if they are accessible or not. So you will give values for these attributes, but the NS3 or in this method get type ID, we have to check if the values are acceptable or not, the range of the values. For example, here the method is named make object vector checker, and here the same method, but in the last attribute is named make unsigned integer checker, and finally we return our return TID, our object. Thank you for watching, and I hope that this lecture is informative for you. If it's that, please like and subscribe, and thank you, and see you in other lectures. Thank you.